Okay, welcome everybody. I'm calling to order the
Never mind, I'll talk to you.
CIC meeting for Monday, June 6, 2022 to order. Dennis, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. June 6th, Elyville, Carla,
Here.
Dee Dee,
Here.
from Kanina, Kanina, can't even remember my own place, Linda,
Here.
and myself, yes. Caulfield, John.
Here. Okay.
No Gaffney Lane. Hazel Grove's inactive. Hillendale, is Sarah out there? She's zooming in?
Don't advertise.
No Sarah. McLaughlin, Denise.
Here.
Park Place, Steve. Here. And Bob.
Here.
I think we have Bonnie on Zoom. Bonnie? She's not, I see her. Her audio must be off. But she's there. I think that's it, Bob.
Okay, and we have
Come on over here.
Commissioner Denise McGriff sitting in for Commissioner Adam Marl this evening. I think Denise is busy talking to the police about some kind of false alarm. Shame, shame, shame.
Half of Oregon City's outside right now.
Good that it's a mistake.
Well, at least we know they respond, huh?
Real quickly, Bob, I want to make sure we had to play around with our audio. Liz, can you hear me right now? Can you hear the audio from the, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, our first item on the agenda tonight is public comment. Mr. William Gifford.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is William Gifford. I live in Oregon City. And a couple of weeks ago, I don't know how long ago it's been, recently, we had the Teddy Bear Parade. And it was a really good time. And I hope that some of you attended that because it was just a really nice thing to have because it's been a couple of years since the city's been able to enjoy that sort of a community celebration. And it was very well attended. Of course, we had perfect weather for it and so on. But the thought occurred to me as I'm watching all these service groups and organizations go down the street, why don't we have a CIC entry in that parade? And if we could have representatives from each of the neighborhood associations walk in that parade, I think that could raise some citizen awareness as to the fact that there even are neighborhood associations that are free, not homeowner associations, and that there is an organization even called the CIC. So I just would, it's a year away, but I'd like to get it on your radar and have you give it a thought as to, that was my main comment. Sometime later, perhaps not too much later, I would like to offer a presentation if the chair and committee would enjoy it, to give a presentation on some opportunities that I think that neighborhood associations and even the CIC in general could be benefiting from Google. Now that we have a Zoom account up and we have there are a lot more features that would really not cost anything at all. And I think it could greatly enhance coordination and communication among the neighborhoods and the citizenry. All I had to say.
William, could you email me some information about those items that you just mentioned? Opportunities from Google? I'm ashamed to say it, but I'm somewhat computer illiterate.
I was too proud to say anything about that, yeah.
But if I'm giving a prompt or something, I can usually get through some things. So I'd be interested in some of the ideas you have for that.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it at a really rudimentary level because I know not everybody is as adept as they could be on some of the features that are. So I'll see if I can whip something up.
Okay, that'd be great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Our next public comment is from Dee Dee Daltrud.
Hi, my name is Dee Dee Dalsred. I live in Oregon City since 1975, and I've lived in the same house, same neighborhood since then. Dewey Street is in the Elyville neighborhood, and we've had multiple NROD developments and/or NROD issues go through our neighborhood, which some have had some compensation to it, and some didn't even get reviewed by NRC because our planner didn't know that it had to be reviewed by NRC. Biggest concern was last week. At the end of Dewey Street, there is a very sensitive canyon. There's a creek that runs down it that is a tributary. It's an unnamed creek, but it runs 20 all year round. And it is a runoff and goes into Abernathy, which Abernathy is a very extremely important tributary to our migration of cutthroat trout and up into Newell Creek. The reason I'm bringing this up is that 3 lots of 3.6 acres have now come up for sale. This is an NROD area, right in the middle of an NROD area. They're picturing a road that goes from Dewey Street, which has always been a dead-end street, because when this was surveyed, it was surveyed at the turn of the century in Boston, where they didn't know our topography here. So it goes off into a very steep canyon and comes up over to some apartments. These are similar. This is the Berkeley Hills apartments. We already know what happened to the ones just one mountain over. My biggest concern is we had 6 of our neighbors go through there and take a look at it. We viewed visible slide areas in there that I've known from owners of houses has gone down. I knew of a woman at the end of Dewey Street, which is now owned by Emmert, and is a halfway house, and it's always been a successful one. However, that was originally built by a woman back in the 90s. It might even be the 80s, but I think it was in the 90s, which I'll get the records on, that this woman built that as her very last retirement home. She was a British woman. We were all very excited about it. Well, come the 96 flood, and this house is all approved by the city, and on this piece of property, it slid down the hill. She confronted the city about it. The city left it no fault. The bank said, well, sorry, we're not going to. The insurance company says, sorry, we're calling this an act of God. She had to bankrupt and leave our city. Then it was picked up by salvage from the bank by Emmert, who owns most of that canyon down there. My point is that we have got to protect that NROD area. You can't build on that area. And as past purchases like this have happened, and Elyville is a perfect example of it. If we're not down there taking pictures of it, that will be clear cut over a weekend. It's happened in that canyon before, back in the 80s. I remember when that happened. And it happens on a 4-day weekend, and boom. Then they argue the point of it being a protected area. So I'm just bringing it to everyone's attention. This is listed right now. I'm gathering people together. I'm gathering anybody. If anyone has anything to do with geology and water, anything, this has got to be stopped. My neighbor, I have an extremely involved drainage system around my house, because when I was lifting it, I opened up a spring on the side of my house. My neighbor was reinforcing his foundation and opened a spring under his house. This house is already halfway in 1 block towards Molalla Avenue, and he percolates 4 inches from his basement floor. He has 4 pumps and an excess of $60,000 around his house, pumping water 24/7. Today, that water ran all the way down into Molalla and down around the corner.
Can you describe where Dewey Street is?
Dewey Street, so we all know where Pearl is, where the old Copeland lumber was. Dewey Street is one more half block up. So you pass Pearl heading up towards Tacho's. You've gone too far. Come back a half a block. Cross the street from where the Veterans Homes was built. Cross from Mount Pleasant. You corner straight across, you go into Dewey Street. That happens to be a trunk. If anything happens on Pearl, all of Molalla is diverted down Dewey Street, which is a 20-foot road, and you can only get one car by at a time. Saying that that area of that 3.5 acres has sketched-in roads. The roads are Dewey Street and Pearl, the base of that hill. I don't see how that can happen. Pearl always is moving. You can see where the road just continually slides and they continually have to patch it. This is a very sensitive area, and it cannot even begin to be considered. Because if we considered these 3 acres, we opened up 7 more lots. So that's probably, again, 3 times 7. It'll destroy that whole area, and we'll have slides. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Does anybody have any questions with Dee Dee on that? Carla?
The only thing I will say is I went out with her to examine the area, and I'm just sitting on the edge of it as looking down at an 80-degree angle, probably approximately, or I guess at a 90-degree angle, maybe 60 or 70, dips down. Is on the edge of it. The soil felt so soft and unstable. My feet were sinking in. I was almost feeling like you could just, because I tried to get to the edge and you can't see anything because it's so, like, it just drops and there's tons of grass and everything and, vegetation. The only other thing I can say is from my neighborhood association, I'm seeing tons of wetlands getting destroyed and filled in, just like what we're seeing in Park Place, being suggested. And it's very concerning, not only for environmental causes, because I'm very passionate about that. On top of that, it's concerning because this is the natural filtration systems that go into our river. And then on top of that, what happens in my neighborhood doesn't just impact my neighborhood, it definitely impacts Rivercrest, impacts McLaughlin, and it impacts down to Redland. So it's huge. What happens in my neighborhood affects my neighbors outside of my neighborhood. So thank you.
Have you thought about going to the Natural Resources Committee about this?
I'm arming up for it.
Oh, okay.
If any, I'm making a call out to anyone. If anyone has any knowledgeable areas in this area, well, we'll need their assistance because this has to stop. Otherwise, that whole area will open up because the same person who owns it, who put it up for sale, owns all of that property. I think.
I'm just curious, we're in a situation now where the state rules we have to build on all this land. Do we have a leg to stand on to fight some of this? Can we restrict certain areas, or just going to be, we got to build on everything anyway, and so we have no leg to stand on?
That's a great question. As part of HB 2001, the city was able to look at geologic hazards and exempt the density requirements of the middle housing from areas of over 25% slope, historic landslides, and the buffers around them. So if any of those lots are in that category, then it's 2 units per acre is the density. So the landslide area, the city chose not to move forward and adopt middle housing in any of those categories that I just mentioned. One thing I would recommend, and I did tell Dee Dee this last week, that particular property is for sale, and so no one's come into the city, but if there's ever a property that you're interested in learning more about, if you think that inkling it's gonna go for sale and there may be redevelopment, just email ocplanning@orcity.org. Any due diligence inquiries, we kind of have a response back about this is the lot. We usually attach the property report. These are the overlay districts. This is the zoning information. So at least you have that. And if you want to send that to the realtor, you can. We respond to any questions that come in. So just because you're a neighbor and not the person buying it, you can still ask a due diligence question on any property. And we can provide you the property report and any overlay zone information on it. And I can do that for this property as well.
Thank you.
Linda, go ahead.
You might contact Scott Burns. He lives in West
Already on
Wing.
it.
Okay, he came to the Kanema neighborhood for a speaker. He was excellent.
We're contacting Scott Burns and Brian Burns.
Okay.
Thank you. Want to come?
No.
That concludes our public comments. Our first presentation will be Downtown Oregon City Update with Liz Hannum. Hello, Liz.
Hi. Glad to be with you tonight. I just have two really exciting things. The first is First City Celebration will be July 16th. So invite your neighbors. We usually have between 5,000 and 7,000 people, and we hope to have a lot more this year since this is the first year we've done it in more than 2 years. We're really excited that events are back, and we've got some really great local bands. And we're really excited to have everybody kind of just welcome people back to downtown as a community. And then
what are the hours?
Great news.
What are the hours of that, Liz?
11 a.m. to 8 p.m. So there's a kids zone. There's a heritage area. There's we're going to have an art program. We've got lots of vendors signed up. So it'll be really fun, I think. And we're also looking for volunteers if you know anyone who would like to participate and get involved. And the other project, the other good news project is we were just announced last week that we received $150,000 to help renovate a building downtown, which is the Bridgeview Building, the old Price Brothers grocery store on 7th and Main there. So I think in 2015 they did a facade improvement, and now we'll actually do the renovations on the interior of the building. So it won't be a storage facility anymore. It'll be an active use brew pub kind of restaurant. So that construction will start in July this year, which is really exciting. So those are my two big updates for downtown right now.
Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
So, who did the 150,000 come from?
Yeah, so that's the State Historic Preservation Office. It's the Oregon Main Street Revitalization Grant. So it comes through the state as part of the lottery bond sale. And each town is allotted up to $200,000. It's a competitive grant though, so we needed to put our best foot forward.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item will be flood management overlay updates by Josh Wheeler.
Hold on a second, let me share my screen. Too many things up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm here to talk about code updates that we are proposing for Chapter 1704 and 1742 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. This meeting is required as a part of public participation when doing a legislative update for updating the code. These code changes are going to be related to flood management. And so a little bit about that, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, they're the ones that regulate flood management throughout the U.S. They have a program called the Community Rating System, and that system is a program that any municipality can adopt. The city has adopted that. They became eligible in October 1st, 2003 was the first time that the city of Oregon City became part of that program. As part of that program, staff do annual reports to state what's been done throughout the year, and then every 5 years does a certification to ensure that we are still part of the program. We are currently in that 5-year certification. In that rating system, you get a rating from 1 to 10, 10 being the least, 1 being the best. Generally, ratings from 1 to 5 are only going to be cities that are on the coast that have a much more substantial flooding possibility. With ones that have rivers like us, you can get somewhere between a 6 and a 10, depending on how much ability you have to meet the criteria. Currently, the city has a rating of an 8. We used to have a rating of a 7, but the last time around, they kind of redid their whole analysis and gave us an 8. And so we're actually trying to jump all the way to a 6. I know that we're going to be able to get back to a 7, and a 6 is still to be determined right now.
I mean, 10 being the bad, 10's being failed.
Not failed, it just means it's the lowest rating. And so
Gotcha.
it provides and you're going to see here what the CRS system does here in a second. No, you're not. I'm going to talk about that. I forgot what I wrote 2 hours ago. The CRS system, what that rating system is, it determines if a property that is in the floodplain can get a discount on their flood insurance. And so that flood insurance drops by 5% every rating that you get. So if you're at the 10 range, I don't know all the specifics. You might be no improvement or like a 5% improvement in the rating. And then that continually gets better as you go to 10%, to 15%, to 20%. So we're trying to get to that 20 to 25% range in the 6 to 7 rating. And so it's a fairly, from what I understand, a significant reduction in insurance rates. And that's the whole purpose of the program, to make people aware of the floodplain and how you can get a reduction in your insurance because of that. In doing that, we have been requested by FEMA to make updates to our code. They felt that there were a few areas that were not clear in their minds. Chapter 1704 in the definitions, we are proposing a new item called machinery and equipment. And that is a definition that talks about what is machinery and equipment. And those are things like, it could be as simple as the washer and dryer, an air conditioner, a furnace, things that are machinery and equipment that occur in a house that you want elevated outside of the floodplain if a flood were to ever occur. We also have a definition that I did not list on the slide that is for the design flood elevation. And we're just wordsmithing there, something that FEMA requested to improve our definition there per their request. And then in chapter 1742, which is the flood management overlay portion of our code, FEMA has requested that we include manufactured homes in a much more specific way in our code. And so we definitely had reference to it before, but now they're asking us to be much more specific and directed towards it. And so if you were to look in the code, you would see in a section E1, you would see some talk about anchoring to manufactured homes, but they've asked us to add it into our construction materials and methods section, as well as our section on residential construction to specifically call out manufactured homes. And that has to do with the Oregon State Building Code not being as specific as FEMA wants it to be. And so it's a much more difficult thing to try and change state code. And so changing city code is what makes this much more easier for us to obtain. And then the inclusion of machinery and equipment, why we're making that definition, they asked us to include that in the materials and methods section to discuss where the base flood elevation should be with respect to machinery and equipment. What is the floodplain overlay zone? It is the area that blends in the map here. That's a map of Oregon City along the Willamette River, You guys all, I would assume, are aware of where the Willamette River is, the big blue stretch crossing diagonally over there. Across that stretch is a teal color and some dark blue colors. All of those go through the Willamette, and then also a bit up to through the Abernathy, as well as the Clackamas River. Those are the three rivers that are part of a floodplain overlay zone in the city. And so these are codes that we need to revise to meet our prerequisites that they're requiring to remain in the CRS system. And the other good thing about the CRS system is if we remain in the program, the new standards at FEMA are allowing people outside the floodplain to obtain floodplain insurance and get a discount on it. So that is new now. So if you're by a seasonal stream or a stream that runs all year long, but it's not considered floodplain in the definition of FEMA's floodplain, you still will be able to get insurance. It's a different rate, but you will still be able to get discounts towards that as well. So that's a new thing that the federal government has added into the system. So win-win for people more than just in the floodplain. So I'm here for any questions about those code changes. Thank you.
I'd like to ask something about flooding. Is it only natural flooding or natural flooding running off, say, like if there's no absorption and it's overly runoff coming from streets and parking lots? That is kind of an issue in my neighborhood because it V's down in. We've had to change the topography to filter it away. And then I know that another person who had a place over by the mortuary, Overside Street, Buchanan, is that street right there? His would come down and he asked me if I could help him. I didn't know how to do it, but it comes down off the sidewalk to the gutter, but it swooshes into his driveway and floods his garage all the time. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's
I don't know where that goes. I mean, is that, does that count floodplain stuff?
It definitely does. It's definitely not part of floodplain. The definition of floodplain is definitely the Abernathy, the Willamette,
up the hill,
and the Clackamas. With respect to, those would be drainage issues. Those are things that people could contact the Public Works Department about, see if there's a way that we can divert the water. In the older parts of the city, it's fairly common that those things occur, and we try and fix them as we can. A lot of it, the best way is to add storm sewers, which gets kind of costly over time, but we try and
we've actually done several of those things, so okay, I appreciate it.
But it's, I think the one thing that FEMA's gonna start allowing insurance for is those seasonal ditches and streams. That's something that is considered flooding because it fills up and overtops over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Carla, go ahead.
So overall, we've been seeing, development happening, and NROD is not being honored technically. When it comes down to it, it's a city decision, and the state constitution won't go against city. So what I'm concerned about is already we're not really enforcing NROD. And every time a development goes through, NROD disappears for that area. And so we're talking about selling these revisions for the fact that, flood insurance is going to be more affordable. What we're seeing this year in terms of rain amount is minimally what Oregon normally has in the past and will continue eventually. We've been going through almost a 15-year drought. So my concern is if we change this, we're not really accurately predicting what normal Oregon weather's like. I actually have a springs that goes down my hill, Pleasant Hill, where Roosevelt Street is, where all the houses right after summer will even percolate a little groundwater. So what I'm concerned about this is how it will affect overall decisions in terms of development when we're already seeing things that I don't think are very sound in terms of preserving wetlands and, destroying NROD. So I'm concerned if we do this is just another nudge to proactively not just make flood insurance more affordable, because bottom line, if something really is going to flood, the insurance is going to cover it anyways. what I'm concerned about is we're getting too lenient as it is, what we've seen in terms of development. And if these code changes happen, how will it impact us in making decisions on floodplains or building on wetlands? Can you tell me that answer?
Yes. So floodplain, flooding, and INROD are three issues that are not tied together.
They should be to a degree.
Let me explain why they're not
Okay.
tied together. So natural resources is a completely separate issue that, that has its own chapter in the code. Flooding, as Ms. Dahlsrud, did I say that correct?
Yeah, good, absolutely.
Said is a drainage issue based on a lack of infrastructure or an outdated infrastructure.
Lack of INROD.
Yeah.
Because ours is all coming from streets and parking lots.
It's all rain-based. And floodplain is about a existing major waterway that overtops its banks. And so that will only be in the three areas I outlined, the Willamette, the Abernathy, and the Clackamas. So it will not have any impact whatsoever on INROD.
Okay.
They are 100% separate. What these code changes do is aligns us with what FEMA is requesting of us to remain in their program, and allows us to basically, it's a prerequisite to stay in the program to make these changes.
So the only thing I can say is we're already, developing and we're destroying wetlands, and then we're going to change this. Are we kind of a little bit kidding ourselves a little bit, because we know we're going to flood eventually in these floodplains. So how does, I don't know. What I hate is everyone's like, oh my gosh, there's an abnormal amount of rain this year. No, this is normal Oregon. In the past 15 years, we've been in a drought, and we should not change municipal code based on, the past 15 years, because that's just, unless we're really changing into like a permanent drought, which we may not be. I don't want to consider that yet. That it seems a little bit sketchy to me. That's just my opinion, but thank you for listening.
Yeah. And let me also add for everyone else is that chapter 1312, if I got that right, 1312 of the code deals with stormwater management. So areas flooding because of infrastructure or because of increased impervious area. Chapter 1742, is that what I'm in tonight? 1742 is floodplain, so when you're dealing with those three rivers that I mentioned. And then 1749
Yes.
is the natural resource overlay. So those three sections attack those three different situations. And so I would just direct those that are interested to look at those different codes when you're looking at those three different things.
Linda?
So is FEMA going to be redoing their flood plains? I live in Kenema and have a deep water dock, so I know kind of about the flood. Are they redoing that and making them higher, lower, or bringing them in line? Oregon City has a different flood zone than Westland. Seems like rivers should flow equal, but according to the FEMA maps, kind of takes a dip. Are they taking care of any of that?
So FEMA has not updated us on any work that they're doing. I do know that the Willamette has been studied by various people over the years, and they assign base flood elevations, which is that flood that is expected to happen once every 100 years. Sometimes it happens in a long period of time. Sometimes it happens in a freak rainstorm that happens over a 24-hour period. But that's what it's defined as, a 1% chance in 100 years. Ours is mapped. Is it aligned with West Lynn? I don't know that information personally because I only look at the Oregon City side. But I can tell you it has been studied in the past, and they usually don't redo those studies until such time something significant has happened to the river to change course, and then they have to, once the study becomes outdated, then they have to redo them. But that usually doesn't come until there's a substantial need to do that, because they have other parts of the Willamette and other rivers that still have yet to be studied, and so that's probably where their focus is.
Okay.
I have a question.
Josh, what are some of the things that you could do to improve the FEMA rating?
Let's see, back in 2017 was our last 5-year review. The last person to make a substantial kind of push to strengthen our rating was Public Works Director Nancy Crushauer back in 2010. There was a number of code changes that occurred at that time, which are all implemented in 1742 right now. And then there was some reporting that was done that really helped. As she left, there was a transition in personnel, a transition in focus, and our rating dropped because we didn't really have the personnel to do the program in a way that amped that up. We've now reprioritized that and said, hey, we're going to take another shot at this again. And so it's really all about documentation. It's almost so heavily in the documentation realm that it's hard to even track because there's so much they want you to track. And in Oregon City, there's literally like 30 to 40 properties that are in that substantial flood area. And what they're wanting us to do is anytime someone comes in from an inquiry, if it touches the floodplain, we need to make sure that we document that we said it. We always tell them about it, but we didn't always document it like on a sheet somewhere that we could send to someone. So now we've started checklist at the building department, at the public works department to say when we've talked to someone about that. That gives us points. Documenting codes, adjusting codes, that gives us prerequisite and points. There's things in our reporting annually that we need to say. The building department has to provide elevation certificates whenever someone's in the floodplain, such as the Cove Apartments. That was something that got us a lot of points. So it's really adding all these things in from a documentation standpoint and packaging it together. I've had a staff member working for the past 6 to 9 months to try and get our rating where it is. And we're almost there.
If the individual property owners did something to help protect their property during a flood, would that be a plus factor for you to consider? Or FEMA to consider?
If it was documented, yeah.
Yeah.
So when another example is the Cove Apartments. The Cove Apartments have documentation showing that they flood-proof their basement area. We had that. It's on the elevation certificate as well, so it's in one place, but showing that we were able to take credit for that. The mapping the city has done with the Corps of Engineers with the 2008 major flood that occurred and all that, that gave us points. So anytime there's something dealing with flooding, if we can document it, it probably gives us points somewhere. But it's really, I will have to say, it's the biggest burden is on the city to track the documentation. A homeowner doing it is great, but if they do it without us not knowing, it doesn't help. Our sandbag program, that counts towards points because we are helping people prevent flooding during a flood. So there's a lot of, it's quite massive. I can tell you that much.
Well, I know I've done some reading on that, and some of the things people can do are kind of interesting. One that kind of comes to my mind is if you own a property that's subject to flooding, if you open up the area underneath your home so that instead of the flood coming in one direction only and stopping and pushing against your home, if you can open up the other side and allow the floodwaters to come through, that's a plus factor. Right?
That's correct. And as long as that's documented in a building permit, then, which it normally is, then that's also something that one of those actually occurred. Public information is another one. Our newsletter, you'll see from time to time flood articles in there. That's, it's serving two purposes. One, to inform the public, but one, to keep our rating where it is too. And if and when we improve our rating and things change with how they're offering discounts to flood insurance and all that, we'll be announcing that through newsletters in the future. Yeah, and we have a huge website that also gets us a lot of points, and there's a ton of information on there as well.
Well, my knowledge of that particular fact shows you how active I am since I've retired. Steve, go ahead.
There's two others there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis, you.
I like the line of conversation that you're adding now. It would seem to me it would be imperative that the city be in touch with the people who are threatening or being threatened by the possibility of this flood, if there ever is one, and that connection would be where they would behoove them to assist or work with them in such a fashion that would help them to and gain the points.
Yep.
So while you're striving for the rating system to work and improve our lot, I think it's really advantageous to be in contact with the citizens who are impacted by this, right?
Yep.
And does the city run a list of people that they're in contact with to inform them that they may be, threatened by such a thing, a disaster like this?
So we've been,
Does that improve the points too, that communication?
I don't know every bit of criteria, so I don't know if that one bit would give us points, but it can't hurt. We have been talking about how we're going to notify people and what we've done in the past, what the city's done in the past. And once we are established with our new rating, the way we plan to tell the masses is through the newsletter and through some social media postings, things like that. But we plan to everyone that is within the floodplain, we plan on sending a letter to each one of them. Normally, they should be notified by their insurance carrier as well. But we do know that there are people currently in the floodplain that have chosen not to get flood insurance. And so we're hoping that by notifying them, it'll encourage them to go, oh, it's a 20% discount or whatever the discount is. Well, why am I not getting this? Cross your fingers or pay for the insurance. That's what you do with insurance, right? And so, sometimes it's legally mandated and people still don't do it. So they take that risk. But we're hoping to inform people so at least they'll be making an informed risk.
I love that you're being proactive on that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Steve.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the purpose of getting the points, getting a higher rating, lower rating,
Yeah.
better rating,
Yes.
is to reduce somebody's flood insurance rates. And that seems to be the some extent of it. So while my home would not be in the floodplain, if we get this 100-year flood, I don't get to go anywhere. My way out of town is underwater. So I would be impacted by this flood event. Is there any insurance for that?
I do not know that. But what I do know is with FEMA telling us that they're now going to cover people that want to buy flood insurance who are not in a floodplain, that there's going to be some impact on that. We don't know what that is yet. Once we know that information plans on getting in a newsletter article. And it may be at that point that someone like yourself who's not in a floodplain wants to buy flood insurance for the case that you do have a negative impact, if it becomes available and is cost effective to you. We don't know that information yet because this is brand new information that they've told us this year.
We have enough trouble with landslide insurance.
That's true. There's none of that, right? Yep.
Edie.
Back to the Enrod and how these two tie in together, because I'm all about big trees and tall trees, and if we protect and if we're going forward with our FEMA area, and we're getting in to, we have to protect our Enrod areas because water runs downhill, and the larger the trees and the greener and more dense, the slower the water goes. It sinks in. One big tree. A mature tree can touch 150,000 gallons of water every season, one tree, through its leaves, trunk, roots. So it's important to maintain those. So do you think if we combine our I don't know how you can say we're trying to slow down or help a floodplain when we're not helping it above. You need to help it above to fix below. I flooded in 96. I was sandbagging my store in downtown Portland, but had a sump pump running, and my hill up in Elyville, because it was percolating through my foundation up and into my basement. Wasn't coming through that way. It was percolating from the ground up. Fortunately, I have a sump pump with a 6-foot hole in my basement. So, because I know this, I know a water issue. So that again, we're not in the floodplain, but we're desperately affected by it because we don't
And so
chopping
again,
down the trees. And we need big trees. We need big trees, not little trees.
so it's a little bit of a different question. Again, the FEMA program and what FEMA regulates is only what's defined as floodplain.
Okay.
Okay?
They should be both together, but.
But to answer the other part that you kind of went into there, the trees are regulated in various sections of the code, 1208, 1741, I think it is, guessing a little bit there. And in some of these codes, such as geologic hazards, 1744, and such as natural resources, 1749, it talks about there's a higher regulation on tree removal in those areas than just the standard code. And so
Is that addressing the pay-to-play system? Where you cut it down and you go, shame on you, now you're gonna have to pay so much per the diameter of the
So
tree.
there's the one section of code 1208, which is about street trees and public trees on public property. And then there's a section, I believe it's 1741, which deals with trees on private property and whether it's allowed or not to be removed, whether it's residential, commercial, industrial. There's a whole regulation on that. For those that do it correctly, it's more regulated when they're cutting that tree in a geologic hazard zone or a natural resource area. The penalty and mitigation is higher and the regulation and review is heavier.
Okay, I could go down a whole rabbit hole on this one, because if you cut down an Enrod area and they said, oh, but gee, that tree was diseased or it was damaged during the storm, I cut it down for you. And
I
then
would
you
just
say-
direct you to chapter 1749 and see what the current regs are that, and then if there are suggestions on how to improve those regulations, this is probably a great committee to address that.
They have 1, 2, and 3 criterias, and the first one is like diseased and or damaged. And so if they say I'm diseased and damaged and the tree is gone, our philosophy is we trust the owner. We trust that person. I have pictures of just the opposite of that. Just saying. Okay.
Anybody else have any
I'm done.
questions of Josh? Okay, Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Interesting.
Thanks, Josh. So this will be going in front of the Planning Commission in late July and the City Commission in August. And I'll be working with Josh the next week or two to put the postcard together for people who live within the flood overlay district or 300 feet around it. So because you only send a notice out for the people affected by the code. But it'll be available online. It'll be in front of the Planning Commission and City Commission.
Our screens all went blank.
Probably because,
I hit the white button.
hold on.
Thank you. I hit it 3 times. That's good.
That was funny.
The police are ignoring us now.
That was
Denise is talking to everybody right now.
knows how to loosen us up.
Have we
Please
heard-
don't ever do that again.
Where is the one?
Have we heard from
That was
Chief
such a downer
Dan?
subject.
3. There's one on this side.
do that?
Bob
I've
has
got one right here.
Yeah.
You cover it up for disaster to happen.
I know.
Let me,
We all need a lesson.
can you see, do you have the Zoom on your screen?
Don't have anything on this.
No, it all went blank.
That they
Oh, there.
took for the team. Now we have 2 beach
I
nuts
guess
to
we're
go along
done.
with it.
Like our kids would be playing.
What is this?
So incredible.
And that, I had already had all the forms and everything, so no beach nuts. Kelly,
Still just
Okay, there we go.
We're back.
We're back.
I know, Kelly Reed was on it.
Police. Well, now the police really have to, it's an emergency response.
Okay, we're almost back to,
Can't play with toys.
okay, let me share my screen again. Okay.
Oh, really? Oh, is he gonna come?
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's talking about floodplain.
Is Chief Band with us?
No.
I requested Chief Band to give us a short presentation,
I can just mention.
knowing full well that he wouldn't be able to give us a lot of information because it's very sensitive in relation to school safety and some of the measures that we might have available here in Oregon City. But it was very, very short notice, and he just happened to be out of town when I sent him the email for the request, so I'm not sure, but I'll try to get him back another time. He did tell me one thing this afternoon is that during the most recent shootings over there at Clackamas Town Center, there were, just happened to be 2 or 3 of our Oregon City police officers there at Clackamas at that time. So it was kind of a coincidence. I don't think they were on patrol or anything, but they might have been there for shopping for their wives or something. Who knows?
They're real close. They have a very close building there, Town Center.
What's that?
The Clackamas County Police have a training center.
Oh, the
that's very
Clackamas
close.
County, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, in fact, they have a shooting range that you could take advantage of there at the Clackamas on, right close to Costco. And I don't know, I think they prefer to provide their own ammunition was what I heard, but that's something else again. Carla, go ahead.
Good news is, and it's been announced publicly, that Officer Plummer is back at the high school on Thursdays and Fridays. So, yes, and the kids really connect to him. You know, like having a relationship with a police officer in the school builds kids to trust police officers and builds, like, you know, Officer Plummer, I mean, the kids want to see him on graduation. They want him on stage as well. So I'm really, really excited about it. So anyways, we feel a little more safe. And it, hopefully, like Chief Band said, when we went to the police station, that we'll have at least 2 officers eventually, so.
Do they also cover the other, any of the other schools, like the middle schools or anything?
They haven't, but they are, you know, because Gardner's had a few times when my kids were there, where there was someone who escaped the jail. And so they had to do lockdown at the school, and then police officers would come. And luckily Gardner's so close to police station. I'm not quite sure about Tumwater. And then, yeah, so it'd be nice to eventually, I mean, to have more police officers in general, because the middle school's going through a lot of problems as well, so.
Anybody else? Okay, let's see, I would just like to, if none of you have heard the sad news, but Karen Morey passed away, and we certainly extend our sorrow to her family and the rest of her other friends. She was a longtime member of the CIC and was I think vice chair for a period of time. This is when I wasn't, short period of time when I was not on the CIC. So she was a historian of Oregon City. She published at least one book I know of on the Oregon City floods. So she will be missed by all of us. Sad situation, such a young person. Let's see. Next up is our staff liaison updates. Christina.
Thank you. Real briefly, I sent an email to everyone today, but National Night Out is August 2nd. We will not have a meeting. Well, our next meeting is August 1st, so the night before. There will be no meeting this July because July 4th falls on a Monday. And so if you want your own neighborhood association table, contact Patty Stewart, whose email is CC'd on the email I sent today. If you do not care for your own table, I will work with Patty to create kind of a default CIC, anybody who wants to show up neighborhood association table for that night. And we can figure out what we want to print out or what we want to do, but I'll work with Patty to get that table figured out. And then over email in the next 6 weeks, try to figure out who is going to staff that table from the CIC or which neighborhoods are choosing to do their own table.
In the past, pre-COVID, when we'd have these events, I don't know where we got them, but we gave tattoos to the children. So every little child that was there wanted a tattoo. So while we were putting the tattoos on the children, we talked to the parents with our big sign. That
Were they Oregon City tattoos or were they just
they were
regular
just tattoos. We let them pick out what they wanted, and the kids just loved them.
Okay, that's a great
So,
idea.
and they're water-based and,
Easy to purchase.
easy to
Do
purchase.
you know where we got those tattoos or where they
I
might be
don't
now?
know. I think, was it Faith who may have been in charge of
It was.
who getting the tattoos?
Faith.
But, and they're, was cheap, economical. We got them for like $10 and we got a big old box and they were cut and the kids would come through. We had the water and little sponges and it was a big hit. And it got what we really wanted the parents to stop and talk.
Now, there is a brochure that we've handed out for years that shows all the neighborhood associations and does the city have custody of those or who?
Yeah, it's a publisher document. I can update it for this year.
Yeah, because it's way out of date. I know for sure. We would want to have some of those to be able to hand out. And then the big map.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is. I'll have to take a look.
That should be updated as well because we stuck little pins. Everyone came through and they got to stick a pin where their house was approximately. So that identified the neighborhood that they were in.
Does anybody have any knowledge of that map, where it might be?
Who was the gal who was in charge of the police department?
Might be down in
Chris
the
Wadsworth?
Oh, yeah.
fire station.
Chris
If not,
Wadsworth.
it was just an Oregon City map of the neighborhood association boundaries.
It
We
was
can
a,
print
it
a
was
new
a
one.
big map and maybe Chris
I'm going
Wadsworth
to-
who was in charge
I'm
of
going to
that.
sign our vice chair. I'm signing our vice chair to find that map.
You know what? Actually, it makes sense to print a new one so we can have Elyville. So that's an easy thing for me to print.
great.
And we can
And
just.
mount it on a,
Yeah.
oh, that'd be great,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Okay, so what I have is new
Save you somewhere.
neighborhood map, updated
That would be on like Tuesday.
neighborhood association flyer. Okay,
Now, I know that one map we had made once did not have any of the names of the streets on it. It had all the streets,
right, because it's probably a
But no
zoom in.
street
It's
names.
probably a zoom in thing, so I'll take a look.
so just be sure it's got street names on it. That was the strangest map you ever saw.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't get the street names until you zoom in and you have to zoom out to get, I'll take a look.
Yeah, okay.
She sent that.
Okay, let's see here.
Hold on, and I have a couple more things. One second.
Okay,
Just want to write myself notes.
yeah, go ahead. We've got lots of time here.
I have a question, Christina.
Yes.
So you said to let Patty know if we need a table.
Yeah, like if
Does that
McLaughlin
also
wants to do a
include
separate
tent?
one,
Do we need to bring a tent?
talk to Patty direct. She's the one, I think what would be easier is I'll work with Patty to create like a default table. And any neighborhood that wants to do their own, just work directly with Patty. But I'll be the CIC or smaller neighborhoods that don't want a table. And that can be with the big map of the neighborhood and see if we can get tattoos and then a flyer.
And are
And
the
then-
dogs going to be there?
What?
Are the dogs going to be there?
Can't imagine why they wouldn't. Yeah. And then over email, the next couple weeks, we will need CIC members to commit to attend.
Yes, and I've attended that many, many times, and it's an absolute blast. It's so much fun. You really need
What
to
was the
sign up.
date again? Is that Tuesday
It's
night?
Tuesday, August
Okay, it is
2nd.
August
You
2nd.
meet a
Okay.
lot of interesting people.
And it's at the police station.
And do we have a time?
It's going to be,
Time on
the
email?
Neighbors Night Out is going to be at the end of the Oregon Trail this year.
Oh, it's gonna be Oregon Trail? Oh, I would retract that.
Yeah, that's what that
Okay,
brochure
that's what it said.
was on it, yeah.
So once again, it'll be, take a look at the information that I sent in the email today and then contact Patty if you want your own table. And then you'll get an email from me a little bit later with volunteers to commit to attend for the kind of CIC joint table.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm the volunteer one, so. I don't want to
I'm
be
already
the only
writing down
one.
here.
Fair warning.
I'll be there if I'm in town, but I have it on my calendar,
Okay.
so I'm most likely I'll be there.
Okay, great. The more the merrier. We can have a lot of fun. Go ahead.
Sure, and I don't really have much additional updates from the traditional one. We're ending out the postcard cycle for this first year, the 2-year biennium. So starting July 1, I'll create a new Excel spreadsheet, and we'll kind of start again. So basically, even though we have a biennium, we get the money in a sense split in half and given to us each year. So I'll start a new one July 1. And we'll do the same thing. So I've attached the latest version. So take a look and kind of see what your neighborhood did. It's attached to the agenda. And then, always contact me if you think you're going to do a special posting or letter. I know Bob is going to be looking at potentially another kind of joint or mass information this next year, and I'm getting you I still have it to get you your quotes. I haven't gotten those yet. But we'll get a new kind of blank slate starting July 1. And let's see, I think that's all I have. Once again, July 4th, we're canceled because it's a Monday. So we'll be back here Monday, August 1st.
And what is the current status of the planning department personnel?
We are interviewing for assistant planners right now. We have some really good candidates, I heard. I haven't been on the hearings. And then we're still open for the planning manager position. So anybody who wants to be planning manager or interested in that position is still open.
And Pete is back as a consultant, or?
We have some help. Former planner Pete Welter is a planning consultant with us, doing some part-time help. So if you email ocplanning@oracity.org, you probably are getting Pete helping us Monday through Thursday. But he's not here for permanent. So we're still looking for more help.
Okay. Anybody else have anything before I get into the roundtable?
When you want me to do my report, I have lots of stuff to tell you.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to you.
Sure, just let me know.
Okay, we're going to get into the roundtable now. Let me get my roster.
I felt bad that you were.
Okay, we'll start with Elyville. Carla.
So we have a steering coming up, and I'm seeing a lot of potential things come up possibly in the future for presentations. I haven't heard anything on land use for a while, thank goodness. Hopefully I'll get a little break, I don't know. But we had a good meeting last time, and we did a market day, and it was during the teddy bear parade, so we didn't get a lot of people. So, but we're looking at having our steering next week, and other than that, nothing new really. I mean, we got through a land use appeal, another one.
But did we had the water council coming to help?
Yes,
Okay.
we did have.
River Water Council. I don't remember the name of the water council. You asked them to come and help us in Singer Creek clean up.
Oh, yes, we do have, so we did have Oregon City Greater Watershed reach out, and last minute, last week, and we had like 3 hours to vote, and we did a steering committee vote virtually, and they're gonna help us now with cleaning Singer Creek, in terms of we were going to do an Ivy poll anyways in October, but it'll be interesting because they're going to start trying to help us clean up Singer Creek Park. So it's pretty exciting. So we'll have some updates on that eventually soon.
Yeah, they seem like a great group. They've been around for years, and they really do a lot of good for us. So, Dee Dee, did you have anything?
Yeah, they're doing a really nice improvement over at Abernathy Park, a little hiking trail, and then keeping it off, getting too close to the edges, keeping people from going down into the creek. Actually, that's what's been nice about it. Yes, I have an announcement for Oregon City Parks Foundation because I'm on that board. And Oregon City Parks Foundation is going to have cookies, delicious coffee, some fruit, some donuts. If you show up to an ivy pull, what we're doing is we're taking ivy off trees in Waterboard Park. We've successfully already taken ivy off of the base of trees for over 600 trees, and we're going to shoot for another 40 of them or 10 or however many people come. We will have tools there that you may borrow. We suggest you bring a set of pruners with you, and we'll all have a lot of fun. Rain or shine, show up. We're going to be at the bottom of Waterboard Park, which is called Lower Waterboard / Upper Maintenance Yard.
And Dee, what date is that?
That's going to be on 7/11. At 8:30 is registration. Show up.
7 or 6?
Tomorrow, next Sunday. So 6. Oh, shoot. So sorry. June 11th. Sorry. It's 6/11. Never trust my own writing.
This Saturday, early.
This next
And
Saturday.
then it'll be all throughout the morning, early afternoon.
It's beautifully done.
I'll tell you a funny little story
Very nice of you.
about ivy.
Yes.
Several years ago, we had a city commissioner that was doing the same thing up at Waterboard Park for removing the ivy. And she said, we are having a ivy cleanup. And somebody asked her if they had to bring their own soap. And so I was glad to see that you specified an ivy pull.
Do you have a PDF or any link and I can
Yes,
forward
we've
that on?
actually sent it to Bob. It's in his email, so he
Okay.
can send it out to all the neighborhood.
I sent it to you too.
Again, because the
Yeah,
one you
perfect.
sent me today, I couldn't open. Did you send it again?
I can send it again.
Yeah, it wasn't attached to it was corrupted. So send it to me again as a PDF and I will forward it on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Linda from Kanema.
We are having a neighborhood meeting this month, Thursday the 16th, and we are again meeting in the church out almost to Henry's, a little past.
213. I don't know the name.
213. Yeah, so.
Town
Yeah.
Still looking for a place to have our meetings. I think it's an ongoing thing within the neighborhoods to find places that we can all join and meet. And I think as a body, we should voice a dire need for some kind of order to bring, this is crazy. I mean, we're lucky, we have somebody volunteering in our neighborhood who offers his church. And for all intents and purposes, it's just fine. But I think as members of the Oregon City family, it would, and the concern and care to reach out to the neighborhoods, I think it behooves the city to assist us in finding locations that would work well for us to meet, even if we have to change bylaws to find a different day to meet that works so that we sort of share, say, hypothetically, the library or the police station or the fire station, all of which we've attended before, and they've been very successful. I know it's after hours, but I think we have chairs of every neighborhood, and I think they could be responsible for a key to close a door. And if that doesn't work, then there could be maybe some kind of deal workout that we could have some assist within the whoever would come forward to allow us to meet. I know it's problematic, it's difficult, we all meet at different times, we have different locations, and it would be nice if there could be some order to that. It would help, I think, the greater whole of the neighborhoods and the communities, just my opinion. But to add to Linda, yes, we are lucky to have someone in our neighborhood that allows us to use his church, and it's been working, but I don't know how much you can extend. It's sort of like an imposition on one level. This is city business. This is neighborhood business. I don't know. Just maybe after we get through this COVID thing, we could redirect some focus on like organizing better places to meet that could work out well for all the neighborhoods and not be so difficult.
The fire station has meeting rooms in Beaver Creek and Malala. Not necessarily even in Oregon City, but that's what the only meeting rooms the fire stations have open.
I think most people would prefer, if at all possible, to have the meetings within their neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's why I said Kenema's going all the way to Henrici.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. John from Caulfield.
Unfortunately, we had a meeting on the 24th of May. Disastrous turnout. Very disappointing. Worst we've ever had. It was just pitiful. So take a deep breath and we'll go forward, and things go well this summer. Our next meeting's in September. We're going to try to go in person. If they don't come in person, but they'll go online. So, we're stuck in the middle all the time. So we're going to try to go in person if we get good results on this COVID stuff and people are more comfortable, because many people in the neighborhood are the older ones, older crowd. They come and show up. So yeah, they're more leery of what's going on. So it was just fine, but Mr. Bob did a presentation about CIC, and that went over really well. And people heard things that are going on in the city they don't always hear about. So that went over really, really well. And the vice chair, she's in real estate, so she got an idea what's going on real estate wise in our area, in our neighborhood, and what's happening in real estate, because it's flying. People are making a lot of money. People are bidding on houses. It's unbelievable. They're in my neighborhood like every 2 weeks. It's gone. It's nuts. So yeah, because it's a little bit on real estate, so that was nice to know. And hopefully September will be joyful. That's our goal.
Sarah with Hillendale.
Does this work? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. You guys know I haven't been here in person, and I have to admit I tried to go to the courthouse.
All right.
Sorry, that's why I was late. Well, City Hall, courthouse, I got confused. I'm still pretty new here. Anyway.
I put you in a cell over there.
Yeah, they weren't opened.
You're welcome any old place you want to be.
The doors were locked, Bob. They wouldn't let me in. Anywho, we, in our last steering committee meeting, we kind of went, we got a lot of things decided. One thing that we wanted to do was really get a handle on the boundaries of the two neighborhoods. And unfortunately, I had surgery 2 days before that was scheduled to go, and I didn't get to go. So I can't really recap it for you because I haven't spoken to anybody who did go. But I liked that we did that. And we decided that as steering committees, meetings, we were going to meet in a restaurant. Might as well have a good time doing that instead of the whole Zoom thing that we've been doing. And so we're going to try that tomorrow. So maybe that will be good. And one thing we want to do, and Christina, I need to talk to you, not part of the group about it, but we're having trouble getting people interested in coming to see what our neighborhood association is all about. And one thing we want to try is more of a newsletter format, not the postcard. I'm a graphic designer, I can lay it out, but I need to talk to you about the mechanics of it all. And I think we've got plenty in the budget because we don't send out postcards every month. But, we need to tell them, it's not an HOA, that's rules, regulations, icky things, it's a neighborhood association. Come meet your neighbors, let's learn some stuff about our community. Let's do some things to help our community, all that good stuff that we want to promote. So I think instead of the tiny little postcard that just says, come meet, that's great when you have a community that's already responding. But when you can't wake up your community, you need to get a little more wordy about it. So we're going to try to do that. And we need to get on that. My surgery kind of discombobulated my whole schedule of everything. But I think we're trying to meet in July, if I'm not mistaken. So we got to get things moving, and maybe this newsletter isn't going to make it by July now that I think about it. So anyway, we're working on different ideas. We are trying to have a good time while we're doing it, all good things. And I made it to the meeting in person, so hey, improvements. I think that's it.
Sarah, for any neighborhood that wants to do maybe some postcards, some newsletters, you can let me know. I'm looking for a folded, in a sense, 4-page, folded in half, kind of taped with the address. I can get quotes from Buell's, and then based on the cost of postage and your number of addresses, I can get, an amount back to you, and you can kind of figure out, how many could I do a year with my money, or what do I want to do 2, and then also do a postcard. You can take a look at some of the options.
Exactly. Thank you. That'd be awesome.
One of the things we used to do too was use colored paper. Like
Yes.
a bright orange or something would catch
Always
their
good. Yeah.
attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. John, you had?
Yeah, I had one question I was going to ask, and maybe other of us has the same curiosity, and Christina knows a lot about most everything and a little bit about everything else. When they say affordable housing, we hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Who says what's affordable housing? How do they say, we're going to see this is your affordable housing
Sure.
price?
There's a capital A affordable housing, which is actually a specified percent of the median family income. So if you and then there's kind of lowercase more affordable. So whenever you hear capital A affordability, that means it is a project that is a percentage of the median family income, either 30 to 50% or 50 to 80%, or sometimes even 80 to 120. Affordable housing usually often is subsidized. That's the capital A part. And it's usually based on the targeted median family income of the residents and what kind of category they fall into, if that gives an answer.
Yeah,
so the
is
apartment
affordable housing for
yeah.
people that get supplemented? It's not for-
That's like a voucher program.
Okay.
That's like a Section 8 voucher that can be taken to anybody. But for example, the project that's going on in your neighborhood in Caulfield, that is a capital A affordable housing project. They received money from the Clackamas County Affordable Housing Bond Project. And there is affordability criteria for residents who will be living in that project.
Is there a certain percentage of the residents there that they're supplemented, or is it?
That probably is 100%.
100%,
yeah,
okay.
Most likely. I am not an affordable housing expert, but when you hear affordable housing with a capital A, that means it is subsidized through a formal process where usually it's an identified resident as a percentage of the median family. Most affordable housing projects are that are rentals, usually 30 to 50 or 50 to 80. Sometimes things that are sold, supplemental, kind of the 80 to 120%, and then under 30% is basically it's almost 100% subsidized. So it really just depends on what category you're in and where your money's from. You get federal money, you get state money. A lot of times you're cobbling together a bunch of different funding mechanisms, and each one have their own criteria to them. So each project is kind of bespoke in how they assemble their funds.
Yeah, because that group met with us again, when they add some garages to it. And we were from the main ones, like on Beaver Creek, the 3-story ones, the bottom was for a business. And the house buildings above us, they have a business, you think about supplementing a business, and it just wonder where we draw the lines and that kind of stuff.
So that project across from the high school is market rate development.
Market rate, okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Denise from McLaughlin.
Okay. So we just had a steering committee meeting, and we have Father's Heart Ministry Good Neighbor Agreement. Hopefully was being signed this week, and we have another Good Neighbor Agreement to review with a transitional housing project on 6th and Jackson. Let's see. Upcoming events, July 14th, we're starting concerts in the park again, and we will be doing snow cones, we hope. And in June, on the 19th, we are having a Juneteenth celebration at the library park. That's June 19th, this is Sunday, from 2 to 4 at the library park outside. And there will be a keynote speaker and a couple of bands celebration. And yeah, that's it.
On your good neighbor agreement, I don't know how those work, but
I don't really either.
are there any consequences of non-compliance?
Good question. We've asked
I'd like you to
that.
answer that, Mr. Chairman.
We have asked, that was one of the main questions we had at our meeting, and go.
So, go ahead, Denise.
Some years ago, we had a good neighbor agreement with an entity at 6th and John Quincy Adams. The applicant received a conditional use permit at the time, and although the city will not enforce the good neighbor agreement, both the neighborhood association and the other party signed the document and agreed to cooperate and basically had it notarized. So I would say that probably the only way that it could really be enforced would be one party would probably have to take the other party to court. We're hoping that that really doesn't happen with any of the ones. So this new one we discovered, or actually I discovered because I received in my city email some complaints from two neighbors regarding the one at 6th and Jackson. It is as Denise said, it's a county owned property for transitional housing. So people coming out of homelessness, and that in no way implies that, things are amiss, but there was a lack of comprehension between two county departments. One county department signed the document, and it was being worked on, and there was an advisory group that was meeting on a fairly regular basis, and then party A transferred it to another county agency, and it kind of fell off the radar. So based on some sleuthing in the files of the neighborhood association, the good neighbor agreement was given to me to make sure that I contacted the county staff and said, hey.
Now, this was in what capacity were you in at the time?
It was given to me in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So I forwarded the information to the county and said, I think we need to talk. Unfortunately, the property received a citation from the city very recently, so they are under code compliance for non-compliance of junk and, well, you name it, they've got it. So today I spent about 20 minutes on the phone with one of the persons who's in charge of, he's not the on-site manager, but he's the administrator. So we plan to get together with the at least two of the neighbors who are adjacent and reinstitute the good neighbor agreement. The county staff person that I spoke with seems to be amenable to doing that, so we're going to get this back on track. And obviously having the thumb of code compliance on them is going to help a great deal.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Just,
Go ahead.
the fact is it kind of concerning, okay, we're looking at 6th and Jackson. Isn't there already a halfway house on Malala or near Malala and Monroe? It's kind of close proximity to, does that make any difference if there's a bunch of them near each other? Or does?
The good neighbor agreement doesn't have anything to do with adjacent properties.
Okay.
It only has to do with that particular piece of property, this particular agreement. And Malala doesn't come into McLaughlin. Malala kind of ends where you kind of make the turn where the car repair place is and you come down by Eastham. That's kind of Dutch Brothers. That's kind of the end of where Malala is. And then as you make that curve, you're kind of coming into 7th. It's, people get confused who are new. It's like when you tell them they go to Singer Hill and they're like, well, where is that? It's, it's part of the going up the street.
And technically, if there's any daycares nearby or anything, and depending on who's going to be in the halfway house, that's something to consider
This
as well.
one isn't a halfway house. It's considered to be transitional housing.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Steve with Park Place.
Park Place had a general meeting in May. It was a hybrid meeting. 28 people attended.
Nice.
And physically, and 4 of them were on Zoom, and that worked very well. One of our presenters was on Zoom because he was COVID restricted. So we had a Safe Routes to School presentation, which we're hoping actually gets implemented and we can get the money for the sidewalks on Holcomb. The other presentation was from our police liaison. So our next meeting will be June 20th. And I haven't figured out if we're going to be back on Zoom. It's a steering committee meeting, so it would be easy to implement that way. Otherwise, trying to figure out where we can hold a meeting, like so many other neighborhoods. The church would not be available to us that night. It's a holiday. Somehow we've got Juneteenth on the 20th, but it's the Monday holiday. And the place where we used to hold meetings was at the Clackamas Heights or Oregon City View Manor. And the county has decided that we cannot hold our meetings there. So that's where we are. We actually held our elections and Bob made sure I'm only elected for 1 year.
Now, there's a story behind that.
I'm sure there is.
We at Park Place were out of sync as far as our bylaws are concerned, because the last time with COVID, we decided to extend for 1 year the existing officers. We voted for them for 2 years. So I asked at this last meeting when we voted Steve in, do we want to vote him in for 1 year? Or do we want to vote him in for 3 years so we get back in sync? And he said, I don't want to be 3 years. So it wasn't all Bob's fault. There was a funny little thing with that meeting. I'm speaking up for senior citizens now. Everybody pay attention to this. They were trying to get up on the screen the other people, the Zoom part of the meeting, you see, and they were having a hell of a time getting it up. So this grizzled old fart, probably 90 years old.
Older than Bob.
Can I help you? You want some help? He went over there and he had him up and going about 5 minutes. So let's get a hand for senior citizens. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, the next one, I'm gonna skip Bob LaSalle in Park Place because he's always talking anyway. We have Bonnie from South End. We know you're out there, Bonnie. You wanna?
Yes, the only thing new in South End is that South End Road finally closed. And my neighbors and myself, we walked down to the bottom of it and back and went through the Kanema district, and it was pretty nice walk to have no traffic. And that's about all I have. We still don't have, as you know, any meetings or people running for a chair. So I still listen in and hopefully can help somebody when we find somebody at a meeting place.
Well, we appreciate your help in that area, Bonnie, very much, and your participation in our meetings.
Oh, no problem. I mean, I'm willing to have like Sundays, ice cream floats, whatever for meetings, but we don't have a group to share with yet. So one day maybe.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner McGriff, your turn.
Well, I was wondering if you wanted to acknowledge Emily. I believe she's on lay of the land.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Emily, I meant to welcome you earlier in the evening. So do you have something to tell us?
I'm just here to listen. I'm new to Oregon City. I'm in Rivercrest, and just looking to get more involved.
He's hoping to activate the neighborhood association. Should we vote her in? Should we nominate her?
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Christina, could you send Emily all the contacts that we've put together for RiverQuest?
Sure. Yeah, Emily, this is Christina. I will send you an email tomorrow of the contact emails I have for Rivercrest. And then I did send you, Emily, a link to CIC applications. So if Rivercrest gets in a place where they can vote, you can apply.
And Emily, I'm sure that you have a last name.
Yes, Emily Lisborg.
What was the last name?
Lisborg, Lisborg.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And welcome to our group.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for putting you on the spot, but I knew you were going to be here.
Okay, go ahead, Denise.
Oh, yeah, no, happy to be here. Happy to listen in.
Yep. Anyway, thank you, everybody. So Commissioner Morrow asked me to fill in for him, and so I'm glad to be back to see you all again. So we've been busy. I wanted to report to you that on May 26th, we had a joint meeting, our second joint meeting with the City of West Lynn. We hosted, and we had 3 topic areas that we were discussing. I'm sure all of you are not surprised that we discussed tolling, but our first topic area was to talk about the pedestrian bridge, and that led into tolling. So there is a concern by both jurisdictions that the pedestrian bridge is being held out as a treat to say, gee, we'll give you this if you do that. And
They're gonna toll the bridge now too, the pedestrian bridge?
well, we will probably get it tolled anyway because, this traffic will be stopped and we'll be able to walk back and forth across the top of the cars because it won't be going anywhere. So it'll be pedestrian whether we want to or not. But anyway, as you are aware, the City of West Lynn, the City of Oregon City do not support tolling. We are deeply concerned about the fact that ODOT has not ponied up the economic analysis that they stated that they were working on to show how it won't cause diversion. Well, we all don't believe that. We believe that there will be diversion. There's diversion now. Just go downtown on a Friday around 3 o'clock, and if you want to go from Oregon City to West Lynn across the bridge or down Main Street, you pretty much can't do it. It's pretty well blocked off, and then you've got the problems of people coming in on Willamette Falls Drive, which are blocking it off that way, and sometimes 99E gets backed up because people are cutting over in Aurora to come through Canby to come up through 99. So no matter how you slice and dice it, tolling is a problem. We really wish that ODOT would consider, and the state legislature consider tolling everything, because you can't just toll one piece and have it work. And most of the other jurisdictions in the country that have tolling, everything's tolled. It's not just one little segment. So that's what we object to primarily because we feel, number one, the economics is too great for both of our communities. Probably the second thing that we are concerned about is that they are claiming that this is going to be equitable, and we're not sure who it will be equitable for, because it certainly is going to affect those who have the least ability to pay. And I figured out one day that, let's say they had tolling right now, whatever it is, $2 or whatever it is. This one day, I think I've been back and forth across the bridge about 6 times. So it's problematic in all sorts of ways. I believe the City of West Lynn did pass a resolution, and I spoke with the city manager and I said, well, I think we need to get one too for whatever it's worth. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's interesting to note, and we have to put them on the spot, is I believe that our state representative and our state senator both voted to support tolling. Mm-hmm. So it'll be a question I will have for Representative Meek about how he plans to help us get out of this. There is, as you know, the No Toll Army. I don't think they're active at the moment, but I went on their website just because I wanted to see what was going on. So we did that. The second thing we talked about was the celebration. So it's out now on the city's website. Mark your calendars, October the 1st. Probably from 9 a.m. to around 3 or 4, we're going to be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Arch Bridge. And that will, there'll be events on the bridge just like we had in 2012 when we reopened it. And we're going to try to emulate many of the things that were done in 1922. So if you know of anybody that belongs to a car club, I'm desperately searching for folks with some old cars. I've gotten in touch with 2 different groups already, and they don't have cars that are old enough. They all start in the 30s. So that's coming up. The third thing we talked about, of course, is the tolling. So I've hit that and the bridge. We plan to meet quarterly to try to work on solutions to problems or opportunities. As you know, we both are on both cities share the water district, so we already have that cooperation going on. And I just recently joined the South Fork Water Board, taking Rachel's place. So now I have yet another meeting to go to on a Wednesday. But I think they're in capable hands with the managers, Wyatt Parno, who's our former finance director. So we plan to do that. So a couple of other things I want to bring up at our next meeting is that we need to talk about how we are equitably dealing with our houseless, homeless folks. I don't believe there are any shelters of any sort or any places for folks to stay in West Lynn. And as a matter of fact, as many of you may or may not be aware, but other jurisdictions routinely drop their people off in Oregon City. Yes, they do. We don't particularly like that. Our chief doesn't like that. And we would like to see a little more equitable distribution about what's going on in other communities. They are going to be building some affordable capital A housing in Lake Oswego, woohoo. So, the more the merrier. Other things we've been working on as a commission, and we have a meeting coming up on this Wednesday. It's a work session. So we are working on the special, let me add to what Denise said. So we are having a Juneteenth celebration. It will be on Juneteenth. There will be no bands. We're having Ray Gordon come, and she's not a band, she's herself. And we're also going to have Ellen White come, and she's also a singer. So there will be basically some introductions, there'll be some reading, there will be some poetry, there'll be some singing. Everybody will get their own sheet, so you'll be able to sing right along with the words. And Ellen is going to sing a song, Ray's going to sing a song, and then the last one we're going to sing together, everyone. Nice. We have a keynote speaker, Taylor Stewart's going to talk about the issue involving Jacob Vanderpool. And if you're not familiar with Mr. Vanderpool, he was the only person of color who was ever excluded from the Oregon Territory. And there's a long story that goes along with that. Not too long, but there's a court case, and it was a case of what I would call envy as to how he ended up being excluded. So come and hear about that. There will be some information, and I believe that the library is going to hand out some bookmarks and some other items. We also hope to have some information about our diversity, equity, and inclusion process. It's just starting up. So there were some people who were self-nominated for that, plus others nominated people. So we hope to have a robust discussion. And as you know, with DEI, we're just beginning, and we'll be doing this from now until whenever. It's not really over, but I think the City of Oregon City is making some great strides in looking at how it wants to approach its next few years. And we are getting more diverse in our community, although it doesn't always seem like it. I'm sure to many of you, it doesn't always seem that way to me. But I'm really excited about the people that the city's hired to help us in this process. So just real quickly, some other things that are going on. We're
Denise,
reviewing, yes.
Where does that take place?
Where does what?
The singing and everything.
Denise just said at the library.
At the library, I missed it.
It's the
I'm
same
so
place.
sorry.
Yes, it's going to be at the Oregon City Library.
Okay.
And on Sunday, 2 p.m., Library Park, bring your own chairs. We will have a few, but mostly people always bring their chairs. And if you've got shade, bring shade. We're hoping the weather will be great, but we will have a few tents, but not necessarily for the assembled multitude. But there's that back area by all the trees that hopefully will be fine. So we are, I'm very excited about the fact that the Natural Resources Committee, which is meeting this week, is going to promote, they have a new street tree list, which is going to be very helpful. I just got matter of fact, the first one that was sent out was apparently not right. And so the second one matter of fact, it was coming off the printers. I was walking out the door. So I have it with me today because I wanted to look at it. So that's going to be reviewed. Also, as you know, the city is getting into the sponsorship of events. And so they're going to come up with a new permit process. So we're going to hear about that. And then the city's also going to be involved with Clackamas Federal Credit Union in a
loan program that will be for startups. And I don't have any more details because that was one of my questions. What is the criteria for getting this? You can get up to $20,000. They are going to, Clackamas Federal Credit Union is going to be the ones administering it. Hopefully it'll be similar to kind of what we did with the COVID grants. So I'm real excited about that. The other thing that's coming up is that I don't know if you're aware, but we received, through the efforts of Congressman Kurt Schrader, we received $2 million plus to implement the quiet zone. So that is going to be very helpful for the community. Now, those of you who don't like the sound of the train will be very happy. Those of us who like the sound of the train are not going to be as happy, but that's fine. It'll happen there. And we hope to get working on that. If you got your water bill recently, there was a survey in there about broadband. Please fill it out and send it back in. It's very important. The city is looking into the possibility of maybe city-supported broadband, but it really will depend on the feasibility study that's underway right now. And this information in the water bill is a survey that you can take by hand. You can drop it off here or mail it to P.O. Box, or 3040, which is our P.O. Box for the city. The other thing that is not moving forward, as you are aware, is anything to do with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. And the Grand Ron had pulled out of the agreement with city, county, and metro. And the partners are still trying to figure out what the heck to do about that. It's unfortunate, but it's happening. The other thing is that, this Clackamas Park, the master plan on that is going onward. And then we just implemented and started with last week with the first open house for a citywide parks master plan. So I think that'll be very exciting. I do need to talk to my Park Place friends about Park Place Park. We had a possible idea about how to acquire a piece of property, and that has completely fallen through. The young man that mentioned that he wanted to help us by purchasing that is Brandon. He doesn't answer his email and he doesn't answer his phone. So I don't know if he's fallen off.
He's not in the Park Place neighborhood either. So.
It's the one that lives just above the park.
Oh, okay.
This is not Armando. He's the one that does not live in.
Okay, gotcha.
Armando lives in Trillium Park Estates in the McLaughlin neighborhood. So that's something that is really important. We've been slogging away, as the Planning Commission has, on 2040. So I'm hoping we'll have one more review of that. Last but not least, but we're looking at, I'm looking at the whole list of stuff here. So we have in the future coming up, hopefully we'll get back to the Metro food waste program requirements that we're talking about, so we can maybe recycle food waste instead of dumping it. Most people don't compost. I personally do, so that's something that, would be helpful to me. We're going to be starting I never can remember what both I's stand for, and I know one of the words is infiltration.
Inundation.
So as you know, right now in some areas of the city, the storm drain stuff is going into the sewer. Well, that's a problem because that means it gets processed through not Tri-Cities, West. It used to be Tri-City when I moved here, so sorry. It used to get processed through West, so we don't want that water to be going through the sewer plant. So the first neighborhood that's going to be part of the I&I is going to be Rivercrest. It's got the second oldest infrastructure besides McLaughlin. And since that water's up above us and coming downhill, we're trying to get some of that water out. And there will be, once the program rolls out, I'm just giving you sort of the big picture, is that there will be some benefit. We haven't quite crafted it, but one of the reasons that we wanted to go with Wes on this program is that Wes is going to subsidize about 30% of the cost. So it's about $6 million. So that means we will have some money to help homeowners disconnect if they need to do that. And I don't know what the percentage will be, but at least we know Wes is committed to the money. We're committed to working on the program. So other than that, I could go on. My list is like 3 pages long, but I'll stop right there and answer any questions that you may have about what's going on. Yes, Linda.
How would we get another broadband questionnaire in case ours has already hit the trash? Is there a way to get another one?
I will contact Kristen Brown and I can forward it to this email.
CIC, yeah, it was a folded sheet of paper in the bill.
I know exactly what it looked like. I know exactly what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, so yes, you can get another one, and I don't know if it's online, because I didn't look at it to see whether there was any link to it, but,
I'll take a look and I'll send an update
Yeah.
by
Okay,
email.
thank you.
so that's important. Any other questions? Yes, Dee Dee?
Did you take the ODOT survey on that they were asking you for toll?
Yes, it was really lame, I'll
Wasn't
be
that,
honest with you.
I was so angry, I couldn't even finish it. It was completely
It
slanted.
totally was. I filled out a lot of the boxes saying this is totally inappropriate,
Yes.
and the questions are really slanted towards everybody supporting
That's
toll.
exactly what I said. It was awful. I couldn't even
yeah.
answer any of the questions.
But I'm glad I took it, because now they know that, we're not really happy campers.
No, the meetings they're having are so slanted.
I know.
Those meetings are just terrible. I've been in.
They wanted to come to McLaughlin neighborhood, and I called the president and I said, don't have them come, it's focus. It's terrible. Sarah, did you have a question?
No, it was just when the Juneteenth thing was.
Yeah. And it now is officially, so to answer your question, it is officially a state holiday declared by Governor Brown, so I believe that you guys have the Monday off.
Monday, City Hall is closed, the 20th.
So the library will be opened, and they probably will be closed Monday, so. But, we thank Greg Williams for working with me on this project to make this happen. So this will be the third one we've had. The first two were sponsored by Unite Oregon City, and this one is being sponsored by the City of Oregon City, which is kind of exciting.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is there any activity going on in regard to the Willamette locks?
Yes, there is. As a matter of fact, there is a meeting, I believe, tomorrow. The state created the Locks Authority, and today was the last meeting of the Willamette Falls Locks Commission, because now the authority is taken over. So they will be having, it was like a half an hour, was like just kind of ceremonial. So the members of the Locks Commission are now discharged, and the Locks Authority people are officially taking over. And I believe that they're having some sort of meeting. I know it's later this month, if I can just think of when it is. I'll let you know, because I just put it into my calendar, but there's a meeting coming up here recently. And speaking of the locks, again, thanks to Congressman Schrader, we got $6.2 million, which he handed off the check to the county. Commissioner Smith handed it off to the head of the Corps, the colonel, for them to start working on the repairs. So it's not all the money, but at least it's some of the money. It's got to be some, the Corps is putting in some too, but they, of course it costs more. But that's going to be very exciting. And we hope that we can figure out who the entity is going to be that's actually going to operate the locks. But we're on our way now. So that is really, really good. Really, really good.
Good. I'm going to bring up a subject that may be touchy to the city commissioners.
I could touch Dennis here.
Touchy. The planning department assigns each neighborhood association a planner. We have yet to get a new one from Park Place, but I'm sure it's coming along.
We'll get there.
Has anything ever been brought up about assigning a city commissioner to each neighborhood association? Has that subject ever been brought up?
No, that is not. And there's almost as few of us as there are planners right now at the staff. If you want any of the city commissioners to come to meetings, you just need to send them, I've asked all of you to send me when your neighborhood meetings are so that I can attend. And that was before I was the CIC representative, and now I'm not, but I still would be willing to do that. Just because, there might be some value that I could add. If you don't need me to come, that's fine. But, if you want me to come, or any of us others, let us know, and Jacob can send out the information via Christina when you're meeting. We can have somebody there. But no, I can tell you right now, my meeting load is about right to here. I'm not
talking about necessarily meetings. I'm talking about advice, support?
You can call any of us. Some of us are more interested in the neighborhood associations than others, and I would say myself and probably Commissioner Morrow are more interested in neighborhood associations since, as you know, I come up from the ranks of the neighborhood associations. And
well, I know that we all know.
They're very important.
We all know that you get paid the big bucks for.
I can tell you that with my increased meeting load, I got a 200% increase in the pay.
Wow, what
I tell you, I'm laughing all the way to the bank.
Well, being a new planning commissioner, and you were on it for many years, and you had mentioned before the amount of time it takes. I'm learning that if you really are interested in doing a good job, it does take a lot of time and doesn't even touch what the city commissioners have to do. So we appreciate your efforts.
Yours is very focused. We get everything. It's like like I said, I can't even remember what the other part of the I and I mean, but I know more about I and I than I ever wanted to know in my life. Which is now, at least when I cleaned the storm drain last week, I was feeling very appreciative because ours was really right by my house. It was super plugged up. I mean, half of it was covered with dirt. And when we just did our neighborhood cleanup, we cleaned up all the storm drains on 7th just so that the water, because when it runs over the top of it and then starts going up onto the sidewalk, you've got problems with pedestrians who have to wade through the water, which you really don't want them, to do that.
Unfortunately, everything from my house is
downhill. Yes, it is from your house. But yeah, I'm extremely sympathetic to the fact of the discussion that Dennis had about meetings. Until everybody has better comfort with what's going on with COVID, and unfortunately, the numbers are going back up. None of the public facilities, particularly the fire stations, are willing to open up their facilities. And it's not that I don't ask them all the time. When I talk to their PIO, they're just not there. But, Zoom is not the most perfect way, but it has provided us with a respite. And I'm sure once we can meet again in person, all of us will be so glad to say bye-bye to Zoom. I met somebody yesterday for the first time after 3 years, because the only way I ever saw them was like this, with like I call the Hollywood Squares, and we met in person yesterday at a meeting. And I recognized him right away because he wasn't wearing a mask. So we will get there. I just don't know when we will get there.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.